I remember Bob Poorman very, very well indeed during his years with the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. I didn't know, I knew he was very close with Roger McCluskey, but I didn't know until later on that he was from Tucson and pretty much grew up with McCluskey. We knew him early on because I saw some of Roger McCluskey's personal photographs at one time in magazines of the the mid 1950s, 53, 54, 55, with just running jalopies at the Tucson Motor Speedway. And here was a very young Bud Poorman in the photo, so they went back forever. How Bud got connected with Goodyear, I really don't know. But I think when I went to work for USAC in 1965, and I think he was already there, and there was a fellow named Larry Truesdale was the head of the racing division, and Bud was part of the I don't know, it wouldn't be the headquarters, but all right. I hope you can edit this thing because I got
Sure.
I got a stumbling block.
You want me to stop
there,
for a second?
But they were located. They had a place just outside of the garage here. Actually, one inside and then one out.
Mm-hmm.
And when Firestone and Goodyear were in it together, and I think at one point Bud was angling to get that director's position, which he never did get, but I know that he thought that he might get that at one time. And he was a very well-spoken, a very sophisticated man, and he was very interested in psychology and philosophy. And so he would come into the USAC office where I was, and golly, by the time you get into the mid-70s, he'd come in and I wouldn't say we had deep conversations because basically I was just listening to him philosophize. And he read a lot of pretty heavy-duty, I mean, he read all of the great philosophers, and he was just very interested in psychology and all of that kind of thing.
Sure.
He was always very well-dressed. When I knew him, he was a bachelor, and I know he dated some pretty spectacular ladies. And then when he got married, I was kind of surprised because I never thought that, he would get married. But here he was, a married man, but always just very dapper, very sophisticated. He looked like an actor. I mean, he easily could have been an actor because he had the long hair, but he also was a very graceful man. And just sophisticated would be the term I would use, I would think. And then as I don't remember if he stayed with Goodyear right till I'm trying to think when he kind of left, but there were a number of changes. For several years he had Firestone and Goodyear kept escalating their effort, and it seemed like they were having a contest to see who could spend the most money. And then Firestone first of all scaled back, and then finally got out of it. And then from '75 on, Goodyear was the only game in town, and then he just sort of faded away at some point. But I remember he was an integral part of it, and in order to try and make marriages between drivers and owners, and I know that he was close with Mark Donahue, and I remember that when the Patrick Racing team was put together, and Firestone had decided that they would stay in racing, but they would just concentrate on certain teams. And they had the Welsh Parnelli Jones racing team with Parnelli Jones and Val Militich. And the drivers were Mario Andretti, Al Unser, and Joe Leonard. And that became nicknamed Super Team. And so when the Patrick Racing team was formed, it was going to be Gary Bettenhausen and Swede Savage, and it ended up being Gordon Johncock and Swede Savage. And there were some people started to call that like Super Team 2, and he said, no, don't. I mean, he didn't want any claims of that type. And, Bobby Unser was another one that he was pretty close with Bobby Unser. And So, and I think always looking for drivers that are coming up and just sort of trying to make marriages between car owners and drivers. And occasionally he would go to like Winchester to a sprint race and we'd say, Bud, what are you doing here? And he'd say, looking for race drivers. Well, you know, I don't know whether they ever plucked anybody out of the sprint cars and put them straight into championship cars, but I think he was looking at it from a PR point of view and trying to get a driver that he thought that would be a great representative like another Mark Donohue.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot.